Welcome to episode 20 of the Developing Life podcast. When personal fulfillment and professional success often seem at odds, how can individuals harness their talents to not only succeed, but find genuine joy? Today, we are thrilled to have Phyllis Williams-Strawder, a formidable force in strategic personal branding, coaching, and consulting. Known as the Ghetto Country Brandmother, Phyllis combines her certifications in life, brand, and business coaching with a brand strategist's keen eye and expertise in marketing psychology, bringing a unique and commanding blend of education and experience. With uncompromisingly honest approach and an unwavering 10 toes down style, Phyllis is a dynamic host of several podcasts that challenges the conventional, tackling tough topics related to branding and boundaries, both personal and professional. With our host, Devron Bowman, Phyllis will share her journey through the intersections of talent and joy and her relentless pursuit of truth that shaped her into the transformative figure that she is while empowering others to do the same.
Awesome. Thank you so much. True, amazing introduction as always. Thank you to everyone who is joining us. Welcome to episode 20 of the Developing Life podcast, where we explore the intersection of humanity, creativity, and technology in an effort to connect diverse perspectives. Today, we have a truly special and powerful guest who embodies resilience and strategic brilliance. From running a $2 million barbecue empire to becoming one of the most authentic and truthful brand strategists out there. Welcome, Phyllis. It is a pleasure to have you. How are you?
Thank you, sweetheart. You guys make me sound so good. I feel like I should be, what was that movie? Where you walk around with your own theme music?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I need y'all to be my theme music.
You have earned it 100%. Just delving into your story more and more here recently. It has been just so motivating to see the things that you have been through. So before we dive in, I would love to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience for those that don't know you by your name or by your persona, the Ghetto Country Brandmother. So yeah, just take it away and give us a quick overview of your history and what you are up to now.
Oh my goodness. Short version, ghetto country means I was raised hood adjacent by a country mama. And my dad is the hood side of me. My mom is the countryside, but she had a little hood in her too. And it was recognizing that I could not hide from that fact, not being embarrassed by that fact, and not allowing that to silence me. Because as big as I am, because I'm 6'1", I've been 6'1" for a whole lot of years. The roundness came after I married Neil, so that's a different thing. But walking into a room and being the quietest voice there because of secret shame, it should not be. Now, I'm still socially awkward on occasion because I'm still the 6'1" woman in a room full of short people, but that's a different kind of story. And going from barbecue to branding has been the ultimate journey, and how to speak up for myself in any situation. And why I do what I do is because I want people to be true to themselves. And the voice and the visibility and the vigilance of doing that is not always easy. And so it's finding the courage to do those things, even when you don't have the confidence to do those things, because I do not always have the confidence, but damn it, I'm gonna find the courage to do some shit.
About to say you could fool us because you seem like the most confident person in any room that you walk into. You are just unwaveringly authentic and truthful in any situation, and it has been amazing to witness that. And that's actually the reason that we wanted to have you on the podcast today, specifically. I myself, it's because you have a habit of speaking the truth even when it is hard. And during one of our previous conversations, you spoke a truth that really resonated with me and opened up just a new path of thoughts. And it was in that a lot of people are getting paid for their talent, but it's not fulfilling to them. And so we went into this conversation about your purpose and your passion and leveraging your talent to fund your joy. And so before we delve into that, I think it's important that we connect your history with your present and your future vision to understand how authenticity and speaking your truth and embracing your power came to play such a pivotal role in reshaping your journey. So, I used to be in the service industry. I know that when you're in a position to open up a second restaurant and move forward, it is a huge success. A lot of people don't realize the monumental effort that goes into generating profit in a restaurant scenario,
Yes.
the amount of hard work and the amount of BS that you've got to put up with to get there. So you were in like this dream ideal scenario, but you stepped away from it because it didn't feel right. So can you take us through your journey, the feelings, the buildup there, and what that empire was, the toll that it took on you, and finally the decision to exit it and transform into a brand strategist?
Oh goodness, let's see if I can get this story out. One of the things that always pushes me forward is my husband and I have always been supportive of each other in our endeavors. And my husband is an amazing cook. Y'all, I do not cook on purpose, not even for my child, and I love her dearly. But my husband is an amazing cook. And he started doing barbecue competitions, and those competitions started to cut into my shoe money, which was not making me a happy wife. But that was the start of everything for us, and finding a way for him to compete, but also finding a way to pay for the competitions. And that started at our dining room table. And from there, it's like, how else can I help my husband? And it was always about him and him fulfilling his dream of, being able to cook for a living. And so we went from there to getting into a farmer's market. And when we got into the right farmer's market, we got free PR. We were a featured business in the middle of the food section of the LA Times. And that just fueled me. And mind you, I love business. Oh my goodness, I am such a paper pusher. That is my happy place. If you let me sit in the office and push some paper all day long, I'd be happy, but that's not the thing. But that first piece of PR is what fueled us to move forward, because then we went from one farmer's market to end up being in 7. And our goal was, we started this in Watts during Thanksgiving, trying to sell barbecue when everybody else is trying to buy turkey. But we had made the decision, once we decided that this is what Neil wanted to do for a living, we said we were going to wait until the following year, August, when my stepson turned 18. But we got so popular so quickly, and y'all, this is a thing. Never not discount space and opportunity. But we started that in October, but by February, we were making enough money to replace Neil's income, and he quit his job.
Wow.
He wasn't supposed to quit his job until August. But we had gotten into that many markets, and we had gotten that much popularity and notoriety just within the LA area that he quit his job.
Wow.
I still held on to mine for a while, but I quit my job when my daughter was 2. And that was some scary shit, because I have always had a corporate job. I have never been one. I didn't start out at McDonald's or one of those fast food kids. And I just always had a corporate job. So to decide to quit, it was scary. But my daughter was 2, but I'm kind of stubborn and bold and all that kind of stuff. And quitting was so simple, because I went home, I had gotten my annual review, and my boss made the statement, you should just quit. And I'm like, bitch, you should quit. You make more money than I do, and you got an inheritance. But when I went home and I had the conversation with Neil was like, baby, just quit. It's like, you ain't said nothing but a word. And it was the struggle and understanding, not even realizing how much of a struggle it was going to be, how many missed mortgage payments there were going to be, how many red notices for the light bill there was going to be. There was none of that. But even in all of that, it did not scare me, because I knew my husband was going to be right here. I don't care what we went through, dude was going to be right here. And as long as I had my family, I had everything. But we went around and we did farmers markets. We did the whole celebrity catering gig, y'all. It's so many tangents I can go off on. I'm not going to go there though. But even when we opened our first restaurant, when we finally got to that point, I was already beginning to see this wasn't me. I already knew it anyway. But like I said, I was fueled by his dream until I started drowning in his dream, and that became a whole nother issue. But opening that second restaurant, we had a great time. We were serving barbecue for breakfast. Still my favorite restaurant. If y'all ever find a barbecue place doing barbecue for breakfast, if they doing it right, call me, please. But it was when we were stepping into that third, we were making plans for that third. And Neil and I both realized we did not want a third restaurant. But I also realized I didn't want to do this shit, period. I thought my whole role was to get him started and rolling, and then I could step out. But it became such a codependent relationship for our business. And because both of our personal brands, because he was Big Mister and I was Mrs. Mister, everybody wanted to say, well, where's Big Mister? And anytime they saw him, where's Mrs. Mister? And people would show up, we would have Twitter fights. Like, Neil, get your ass off of Twitter and go cook some meat and stuff like, and people, it was a yin and yang thing. And so it was hard to separate. And so like I said, I ended up doing this for 10 years and trying to find myself on all of this. I was still studying and learning, and now learning about marketing and branding and learning what to do and what not to do. I'm networking. I'm doing speaking gigs at high schools. And it's like, dude, I quit and I fired myself jokingly for about a year. I really did. And then finally it came to a point, it's like, baby, I want to stay married, but I don't want to be in business with you.
Yeah.
And he said, go ahead and go. I got this. And he's like, you know what, you helped me with mine, now go do yours. But then I said, well, what if I want to travel? He said, I'm rolling with you. I said, then what we gonna do? And he said, I guess we gonna shut it down. So we had this conversation in June. We announced that our last day in the restaurant was July 3rd, 2018. By August, we had moved our asses to Oregon. That's how quickly it happened. And we have never looked back, despite all the struggle and all the different adjustments that we made over these years. And still, and mind you, my daughter has been homeschooled since fourth grade. So we get sick of each other. But we have never looked back. Even when I quit my job and they like, oh, you're going to be back for the benefits. I said, bitch, I will go to a county hospital before I come back to this joint. I promise you I will. And it's just, like I say, talk about resilience. It's not something I ever thought I would have, but it's something that I continue to depend on, that and courage, because it's scary out here.
Yeah.
And people think just because you make a lot of money sweetie, that doesn't make it any less scary, because you're still depending on yourself. And when we get to this whole joy versus talent thing, yeah, you got to make some decisions. You really do. I hope that was a short enough version.
No, that's beautiful. Like I said, your journey is just, it's so powerful. And one, it's such a testimony to finding the right partner. The way that you
Yes,
and
it
your
is.
husband support each other, that give and take is so essential, not just from the support aspect, but from the trust and transparency of you being comfortable enough to go to him and say, hey, this isn't me, and him accept it, knowing that it wasn't going to be a selfish response from him.
Mhm.
This is also the point that you made about you leaving your other job. That was one of the most powerful things that struck me. I listened to one of your other interviews, and you said that, at that time you had your 2-year-old daughter. You didn't have a game plan established, a future vision. You had all the mortgages and everything coming in, and you pressed forward with courage because you said in that interview you didn't want a bullshit narrative passed on to your daughter about accepting an amount of money to do work that she was not happy with.
Yes.
So no matter what, you were going to press forward to set the example that you fight for your passion and you chase your dreams. And that is such an incredible thing to look back on, and how it worked out for you. And so we've also talked about the meaning of authenticity, and I'm kind of scared to use that word around you because I feel like you want to reach through the screen and slap me when I say that, because it is not a word that you enjoy. And I agree. We've had a conversation about how it is so overused, and it seems like the meaning has become very diluted in it. And so I want to know, in your journey, how authenticity played a role and how that really did redefine the moment in you shifting into brand strategy. And I would also like your suggestions or your thoughts on what we do to bring the meaning back. Do we find another word to replace this? Do we redefine it? Do we fight to restore the integrity? I mean, how do we, because it is something that all of us strive to be. I mean, that is the greatest form of connection. So How has the pursuit of authenticity shaped your journey, and how do you feel like we can maintain the integrity of being authentic today?
For me, I started my authentic journey with Cass and Ebony when we were still on Clubhouse.
Okay.
And we had a group in a Clubhouse called Authentic as Fuck, Get Authentic as Fuck. And we called it GAF. And where Ebony was life, I was brand, and Cass was business. So how do you get authentic as fuck in your life, in your brand, and in your business? And that was our thing. And understanding what that meant. And we always tried to make the separation between authenticity and keeping it 100. Because sometimes when you keep it at 100, you tend to get a bit petty. I know I do. Understanding to draw that line between, you know what, authenticity and keeping it real, or however you define that part. But it became clear that everyone wants to claim authenticity, and they are fake as fuck. And it's seeing that fakeness that wanted to make me not use that word anymore. And the more that I see people, I'm just being authentic, sweetie, authenticity is for you. When you actually look up the definition of authenticity, your authenticity is like, as long as you're being true to yourself, that's authentic. But the genuine connection that you want to make with an audience, that comes from genuineness. And so why do you have to tell me you're authentic unless you think that you're being fake? You shouldn't have to use that word all the time if that's what it really is. And so when you understand that my authenticity has nothing to do with you, me being 100, me keeping it real, it has nothing to do with you. Why do I have to constantly draw that word out? And so people are constantly telling you, oh, this is my authentic self. Y'all don't want the authentic Phyllis. It's a whole boatload of batshit crazy up in here that is not meant for everyone. Because the authentic me is, I'm a stay-at-home, I'm a homebody. My husband always laughing at me, you don't go nowhere. Why are you telling people you're going somewhere? But I am, I'm a homebody. When I go on vacation, I want to sit at a cafe or a bar and drink and read a book and people watch. Ain't nobody got to, that's authentic to me. But I also enjoy good conversation. I hate that my husband is getting to the age where all he wants to talk about is the freaking weather. It's like, open your mouth again and tell me about the hurricane. We're gonna have a situation. But those are things that truly turn me on. And to think that that's all that I am in my brand, or that you're entitled to all the brilliance that's me, including the crazy, because the crazy is brilliant too. But to think that you have to bring all of your brilliance to a personal brand is doing your personal life a disservice. And so there's nothing that says that you have to announce your authenticity. But there's everything that says, you know what, as long as I'm true to me first, then they're getting the best part of me. And knowing that you can't bring all of that crazy, because, sweetie, nobody wants all of your crazy, not even you.
True.
So just keeping that perspective with it, it's like, okay, you don't have to make the announcement. You don't have to say, well, this is my authentic self. Really? Are you afraid that somebody's going to perceive you as fake? And if they do, why do you even fucking care? So that's my thing about authenticity.
I love that. And so let's dive deeper, because this really does bring us to the topic that our audience is here for, which is using your talent to fund your joy, to leverage the things that you're known for, are inherently good at, to do the things that you are passionate about. So in one of your recent conversations with, I believe it was Stephen Warrigan, you mentioned
yes,
Warrigan. Okay,
one of my favorite people,
so
yeah.
you mentioned that Ghetto Country Brandmother ultimately was a narrative that was cast upon you, and something that you ultimately embraced but reshaped in your own way. And that's what I would love for you to expand upon, because I think that there is a perception that authenticity means letting it all out there and letting people 100% into your personal life, which we know and we'll cover later. I'd love for you to get into the dangers of oversharing and the negative impact that can have on our professional narrative. But for right now, let's talk about how you did control the narrative of Ghetto Country Brandmother and leveraged it to your benefit, while also maintaining privacy in your personal life, because that is a thing that we need to be conscious of, and especially creatives need to leverage more. Like, there are ways to put yourself out there professionally and weave in important life narratives without oversharing or becoming kind of like a dramatic situation online. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's just dive into just the transformative power of Ghetto Country Brandmother and how it basically allowed you to send a big F you to all the people that doubted you and pigeonholed you. So
Yeah. It goes back to the whole ghetto country being my secret shame. And I know what kind of environment I grew up in. I come from a very, very big family. Um, ooh, a whole lot of cousins. My grandmother had 12 children, and you got to figure all of them had at least 2 to 4 kids, and they had kids, and there's this whole big family thing. And how we talk around my house, it's like, oh my goodness, I miss a good game of dominoes with some shit talking. It's like, oh, slamming them down or sticking that joker on your forehead because you know you done you got the last book. And it's that kind of shit talking and different things that I grew up with. But then as long as I had a corporate job, there's a lot of people who understand this, and people may understand it from a bit different perspective, but having that lifestyle and then working a corporate job, there's the whole code switch thing that we have to do. It's not that we have to, that we choose to do, because that's the only way we're going to get our paycheck. And so when I decided that I was going to do my own thing, I immediately, because Mrs. Mister, she's a bit of ghetto country, but like I said, I got lost in that identity. I had that identity crisis. But when I decided to become a business coach, I went right back to the code switch. I fell into it because it's like nobody's going to pay me the money that I want to be paid. Me talking like this. I know bad English is my first language. It's not even English. Bad English is my first language. It's like, oh, how the fuck do I say that word? And so it's that understanding. And so when it was time for me to market my business, I would not speak up for myself. I would not step out on courage or anything else. I tried to do all the behind the scenes busy work, hoping somebody's like, oh, look at that shiny object and come find me. That does not work. And so I had to get to the point of accepting, you know what, y'all, it's just ghetto country. And you're going to have to find some people that love that, because otherwise you're never going to make any money. So is knowing that, or what I assumed was the perception of, you know what, this is my thing, this is how people perceive me, and I feel kind of yucky about it. I had to get comfortable with it. And I could not allow someone else's perception of me to dictate how I acted. I was not going to code switch anymore. It's like, when I say bitch, please, sweetie, I am not calling you a bitch, but people will think that. But in my house, bitch, please, we're like, no different, say motherfucker, please. That's how we talk in my house. And because I consider a whole lot of people fam, y'all not close fam. I'm not going to say that. You can't come at me sideways. But because I consider a lot of people fam, I have to be comfortable enough to talk to you like fam. It's just like when people talk about being triggered, it's like, oh, you guys could never play the dozens. Half of you don't even know what the dozens is. And so it's knowing that's going to turn people off. And as much as I was trying to be loved in my early age to the point of being my version of nasty, I had to be okay. I had to understand that, you know what, you're going to turn some people off. Let them go, because they're never going to understand. And having someone try to dictate to you, oh, you have to be professional. That's another word that has been bastardized, because professional means that I'm in this profession. I'm part of this profession. It has nothing to do with hair, clothes, pantyhose, fingernail colors, makeup, piercings. That has nothing to do with professionalism. It's the fact that I'm an expert enough at this and I'm skilled enough that you should pay me my money. Now, if you have dress codes, that's still not a matter of profession. That's your code. That's how you want people to come to your place of work. But to now confuse professionalism with how I speak, I will call you a bitch and a motherfucker in a heartbeat, because now I'm cussing you out, which is different than cussing at you.
yeah.
I don't want your fucking money, because that is not true. I spent hours, even now, I still study branding and marketing. I study psychology because marketing psychology is different than psychology in and of itself, because we buy emotionally, but we don't even recognize the emotions that's behind it. We want to say, oh, well, I can justify this because I need these shoes. No, you want those shoes. You want those shoes because you don't want to look broke. You don't want to look like you can't afford them. You don't want to look like, oh, well, I have to always buy the cheap shit. You want them because they give you a certain feeling, but you justify it with logic, which is totally different than how you live your life. The emotions that go behind how you live your life have very little to do with how you buy on occasion. And it's understanding all that. So accepting ghetto country was my first step in saying, you know what? Okay, I'm okay with me. Because if I'm not okay with me, I'm always going to be insecure and uncomfortable around anybody. And now, because I'm uncomfortable, when I tell you it's going to cost you $4,000 to work with me, I can't say that number comfortably. Because if I say, oh, bitch, that's going to be $4,000. Some people are like, wait, you call me a bitch and then you going to ask me for something?
So it's really finding that balance of tact within your confidence. And so I would love to explore how you've maintained your empathy, because your demeanor from the second that I've connected with you has been confident to a T, unafraid to share your opinion, unafraid to chime in, the type of confidence that I admire and would love to be able to emulate. And then diving into your story, I realized that a lot of your confidence is a result of having to fight throughout the entirety of your life. But despite the fact that you have had to fight throughout your life, you have maintained such a kind demeanor, and your mission still remains one of kindness and helping others embrace their power to create a better life for them. Some of the things that I was, unaware of, you mentioned your height earlier, that you were 6'1". I learned that growing up you had more tomboyish tendencies, and that became very intimidating to the point you actually had to fist fight, not just theoretically fight, but you had to learn how to defend yourself.
Yes.
You went from that into a feminine shift in which you were looked at more in an objectified sense and had to fight against that. And then now at this point in your journey, because of the confidence that you come in with, you've mentioned that you often experience times where you're just relegated to the angry Black woman. So it's like at every point throughout your journey, you are constantly fighting this narrative that others are casting upon you. So how has that impacted you? How have you maintained your kindness? And then we know that most of our female demographic is not going to have to fist fight someone to command their place in a setting, but they are fighting battles every day that they enter a professional setting. So what advice would you pass on to them as a result?
Okay, this for my own benefit. First, stop fighting with Gen Xers. No, I say that because I know there are a lot of people who handled the era that I grew up in. They see it as trauma. And while I have my own trauma, I see it as lessons. And I hate when I keep saying and. When we were growing up and I grew up Church of God in Christ, you didn't go to therapy, you prayed. And so our faith got us through a lot of shit that we could not afford to go to therapy for. With that, there's this thing that whenever there was a problem, you didn't have anybody to talk to. And so there are a lot of people out there dealing with the hard stuff. And so one of the things why I'm able to maintain my empathy and why I say that I nurture, I don't help you do shit, but I will nurture you through some shit. And the reason I do that is because I don't want anybody ever feeling like how I felt growing up, not having someone to talk to. And like I say, I am a loner type for the most part, but sweetie, if I got to pick you up and tell you to pat yourself on the back and dust your ass off and let's go get this money, let's go do this work, are we taking the bottle or the bat? Who we beating up? I'm that person. And it's because of all of those things that you just said, all of the physical fights that I had to have with boys because, oh, she thinks she's bad because she's a tall girl, and giving my body away indiscriminately because I did not feel loved. So let me find love by opening my legs. There's that aspect of it. And just not being recognized or not being valued as a person. And so when I talk about separating my personal life and my personal brand, sweetie, you can never give me enough value as a person because only I can give that to myself. But you can value this work, and that's why that has a price tag. I cannot charge my worth because you can't fucking afford me because I can't fucking afford me. So to sit here and charge for this work, oh yes, that comes with a price tag. But understanding that I hate the word failure now, because I see everything that you've gone through that has gotten you to this point where you're still standing. Sweetie, that was a fucking lesson. And hopefully you've learned it well enough to make something out of it. And getting over all of those different humps and hurdles, you have to always remember, even when you were first born, you had to crawl before you could walk. And nobody wants to crawl anymore. Y'all want to take AI and let it, sweetie, this is not a walker. You have to learn to do this shit on your own. So to continue to nurture you to show up for yourself, that's how I do this. I don't do personal branding because I believe so much in branding. I believe in you. And so to be able to give you that, it's like nobody nurtured you in business. Everybody told you to go get a job. Everybody told you to go to school. Everybody told you to learn this, but nobody nurtured you in your gifts and talents. So now the things that you do well is because it became a learned skill. I do this well and I make a whole lot of money. You know what? I'm holding on so tight that I can't open my hand for the joy that I want. And so we get stuck. And it's like, how do I let this go? I make $500,000 a year. I know if I go start off by myself on my own, I can't do that. But you have to be strong enough, if that's what you really want, to know that, you know what, I can survive this long for this amount of money to do this thing. And then give yourself grace enough to do it. And know that you're going to fuck up and you're going to fall, but you're never going to fail as long as you keep doing what you want to do. If you decide, I don't want to play with this no more, then still, that's not a failure. That's you choosing to do something else with your life. And it's letting go of all of those different things. So when I say I nurture and how I maintain my empathy, so yeah, I know what it feels like to feel fucked up. I don't want anybody to feel that way ever, especially when you're trying to make your money. Because if you're embarrassed to ask for the money that you think your work deserves, then you will forever be broke. And that's not a great place to be.
Do you think that there's a direct correlation in that value perception, and that, oftentimes we don't give ourselves enough credit or place enough value on the talents that we have or how much we've invested? But do you think that perhaps our value perception is tied directly to our level of happiness in what we're doing, and that if it doesn't excite us and we don't equivocate meaning to it, then we probably don't place a lot of value on it either?
To a certain degree, yes, to a certain degree. It's why a lot of people, when they start their business, they automatically become CEO. They're impressed by that title, regardless of how little or how much money they make in their business. Oh, I'm a CEO now. I'm a founder and a CEO. Bitch, who gives a fuck? I don't care. Because the level with which you respect yourself, if all of your identity is tied up in all the labels that you have, then you can never be true to yourself. And for me, yes, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, I'm all these things. But when I have to ask who is Phyllis, Phyllis is that empathic person who likes to pour into people, who, like, if I didn't need to pay bills, would do this shit for free. When I take away all those labels and I got to stand here butt naked with nothing but Phyllis standing 10 toes down, that's who I am. Being the founder of Brandma's house, that's a label. Being a mom, that's a label. I was a mom before I had a daughter. And so when we place all these emphasis based on, oh, CEOs make this amount of money, that's why I'm worth more. Sweetie, no, you're worth more than that, because your life is worth more. Because I promise you, if someone came along and asked you at your money or your life, you're going to give them all the money you have, because your life is worth so much more to you. And even the person that only has $1 to their name has given everything that they have. to save their fucking life. So putting a price tag on that because it has a label, no, that is not your worth. That is not your value. That is your job. That is how you make your money. And I hope you get paid all your cheddar. But that's still not who you are. And that's why we get so caught up in the identity crisis. I have clients that come to me and they're trying to peel that corporate off. And it's I don't know how not to be that thing. I don't know how not to be that 7-figure earner. If I don't have that title, then who am I? It's just like when women used to get married back in the day. They got married because they wanted the title of Mrs. Because they wanted that fucking man. They wanted the title. And so now we have Mrs. So-and-so because he's important. Bitch, I was important before I married you. Don't get it twisted.
I feel like you're speaking directly at me. I'm a title hoe. I really was at the beginning of my journey. Like, what can I find to sound the fanciest? All right, so how do we solve this then? So in your personal experience and your expertise, if I'm coming to you and I'm feeling unfulfilled, what are some of the things that I'm probably feeling that you have witnessed or kind of a regularity amongst your clients? And then how do I bridge in a responsible way the gap between where I'm at doing something that I'm talented at, that pays well, but that's unfulfilling, moving that into something that is fulfilling and profitable?
If you're doing it from a business perspective, it's, say you're a skilled accountant and you've been an accountant for the last 20 years, but you were doing it for someone else. Okay. But you have this passion, you want to be a skydiver. Okay? No one's saying you can't skydive. Go make the money over here at this skill to fulfill this joy that you have over here of jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. And it's understanding that not everything that is our joy, that is our life's blood, is something that we're going to be paid for. It's like you may love kids and you want to help out all the single moms and go take care of all their kids, but them heifers can't afford you. So are you not going to do that? Or are you going to find a way, it's like, I'm going to go work for half-time and get my money over here, and then I'm going to come take care of your babies because I got you, because I know you need to go to school, get your education so that you can do better. And taking care of these children is your joy, but there's not enough money in it. So are you going to restructure your life so that you don't need as much money? Or are you going to chase money and say, oh, well, this is how much I charge because your kids is bad. Ugh. Which do you want? Is it your joy or is it not your joy? Because if you know that your joy does not supply the type of income that you want, then you got to go based on your skill. So let your skill go over here and make you your money so that you can go over here and have your joy. Don't sit here and hate on a job because, oh, well, I got to do this shit all day. But what did you do all weekend? Did you run around and do everything that you wanted to do? That was your joy? Yes, somebody else is going to tell you that, oh, you can't have this day off. But when I do, I'm going to feel my joy. And nobody can steal that from you. But if you're doing it from a business perspective, sweetie, if what you're doing, like I say, what I do now is my joy. It just happens to be personal branding. But in actuality, for me, I get to pour into people every fucking day. And I get to tell them how great they are, how you get to show up for yourself, and how you get to say, fuck y'all. This is how I do what I do. That is my joy. And I just happen to be paid for that. But before that, it's like, you know what? I was doing it for free anyway. When people would come to me for advice and I'll meet a stranger in the airport. Baby, what's wrong with you? Who done fuck with you? Do we need to go beat somebody up? And as soon as they smile, it's a conversation. And it's like, okay, so what do you want? And part of, like what you asked me, part of what we don't give ourselves is what we want. Because we're so busy trying to make sure that we got what we need. Life is so fucking hard and stuff is so damn high. And shit is so far apart. We can only supply our needs. So we're afraid to ask for what we want. We're afraid to admit, you know what, I need at least $100,000 a year. But saying that means now I got to figure out how to make a fucking $100,000 a year. but also knowing that living in California, that ain't no money. I'm sorry. I was born and raised in California, but recognizing that that's not enough money to sustain this type of life that you want. There is nothing wrong with wanting the best, but also recognize that people who are surrounded by the best are probably not the same people that you grew up with. And so when we start to shake the spot, we have to be comfortable with it. I'm not leaving you, but I need to go over here and surround myself with people who know how to make money. Now you can come with me, or I can come back and visit, but I'm not sitting here in this shit with you. Not no more. And people will say, oh, she changed. She thinks she's different. She thinks she's better. No, sweetie. I'm over here because I'm trying to make some money. I would love for you to come with me. But bitch, if you don't get your ass up, I see you when I get back. When I go visit my mama. That's it. And we have to be comfortable with those choices. And like when I wrote balance is bullshit. Balance, there is no balance. There is a juggle, because you're going to have to choose between this and that. You're going to have to say yes to this. And whenever you say yes to this, you're saying no. There's no multitasking in life. Pick one.
Yeah.
And be okay with it. Stop feeling guilty about shit that you decided. I'm not telling you to be an asshole, but I'm telling you to be okay with your decisions and know that it comes with blessings and consequences. It's going to be on both sides. When you tell your mama you can't go to dinner, it's going to break her heart. But when you go over here and you have this dinner with this executive and you get this deal, I'm okay with that. Mom, I will be back. We okay? We good? Baby, I got you. Because your mama's going to forgive you anyway. And anybody that loves you, that's part of your support system, is going to love you anyway. They're going to lift you up. And it doesn't matter that you're making more than them. And I am talking too fucking much. I'm going to shut up.
No, you're not. I love this point, and I think it's something that needs to be, I think it's a narrative that needs to be shared more, especially from the perspective that not everyone has to be a business owner, and from the it's okay to be okay with the thing that you've decided. And that's something that I think about all the time, because I can't count how many days I've looked in the mirror and said I really regret trying to own my own business, because it seems like it's such a glamorous thing on the outside, and then you realize that you were all of the positions required to run it, and that all of those things that you thought were going to be fun and enjoyable are still there, but they're overshadowed by a million different things. So I love the points that you're making about giving yourself grace and just being okay with embracing your own narrative. And it just plays right back into the statements that you made at the beginning, that authenticity is different for everyone. So the life that you're fighting for should not be a narrative that was shaped by the perception of someone else and what they have and how they got it. And I definitely agree in that we live in a world where people are skipping over the meaningful parts, and they're robbing themselves of fulfillment as well, because those journeys to success are where all of the inspiring moments and deep lessons and valuable connections are made. Um, so we're coming up almost on an hour. In the next few minutes, I would love to open the floor up for Q&A. So if our audience has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. In the meantime, I would love to give you the floor to express some of your strategy expertise, because you made a comment a couple of times in my research in that if you had the skill set that you have right now, it might have been a different story in the barbecue business scenario if you had had a strategy.
Mhm.
Knowing what you know now, like your lived experience, and reflecting back on your experience in the restaurant, what changes would you have implemented, or what do you think was missing? And do you have advice specifically for our creatives or business owners that are within that space that you think would be very valuable and help them avoid some of the heartache that you faced in your journey from a strategy perspective?
Yeah. One of the things that I always tell my clients about, it's learning to endorse your business. Stop walking around with an elevator pitch in your back pocket. Stop always looking for the opening to make a sale, but learn how to endorse your business. A lot of times, like we have all of these influencers and marketing strategists all the time. Even AI will tell you, oh, go hire an influencer and fuck that bitch. You go learn how to do your own shit. Learn how to endorse your business. And endorsing it doesn't mean like, oh, we have this over here and there's a water ride over there. And oh, you go down. No. Learning how to endorse your business is how you endorse any other thing that you enjoy. And if your business is something that you enjoy, whether it's a skill or a joy, it is something that you can say, you know what, in Brandma's house, this is how this thing works. When you come over here and we talk about contemplation, what I want you to do is I want you to sit 10 toes down and I want you to not think, but meditate on this one question. And that's what contemplation is. It is not about woo-saw and all that kind of stuff, but understanding what you want. And it's not saying you're going to get it, but at least putting it out there and owning the fact that I want something better and not feel bad for wanting something better. And if you're a designer, like we talk about creatives, there's all these different things of being creative. And it's like, if no one is buying your creativity right now, YouTube has made all this open to you. Go create your shit and put it out there for everybody to enjoy. But then when people start seeing and they start enjoying, and I think everybody should, let me back up. I think everybody should start with a personal brand. Let me say that. I also think everyone should give their personal brand a name. So when that shit get out of control, go tell that bitch to have a seat. Because I tell GCB, yeah, it's not your turn.
Okay.
And GCB will say, Phyllis, is not your thing. Don't get petty on them. Don't get petty on them. Don't get violent. But it's owning the fact that, you know what, who I am and what I do, yes, they overlap at certain places, but they are not the same. I do this either because I'm good at it or I love it. But how I live my life, I live a quiet life of hanging out with my husband. And I was at some seedy bar yesterday with my husband for my 20th wedding anniversary.
Oh,
Bunch of low-key rednecks in there, but it was cool.
yeah.
And that's my life. I sent out a newsletter this morning, last week. I'm in LA taking care of my aunt. That's my life. And it upsets me when people say content is king and everything is content. What I do with my aunt and how I take care of her, that is not content. That is my life. And so understanding that you're allowed to keep some shit to yourself. I don't give a fuck how nosy people are. And they are nosy because we have created a society of content carnivores. They're like Pac-Man, just gonna eat up all the shit and never give you $1 for it. Because it's like, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's sad. Oh, that's all the things. But I don't need that shit right now.
Yeah.
So it's for me, it's making sure that you understand what you want. And if you want it, nobody's telling you to sacrifice your whole fucking life to get it, but know that there's some sacrifice involved.
Yeah.
Separate your who from your do. This is what you do. That's not who you are. The identity of who you are is wrapped up in so much more. And some of us don't want to face that. And you're going to have to learn to face that because that's a reality, sweetie. You can't hide from it. Because who you are over here, like I said, Ghetto Country overlaps with Phyllis. It overlaps with mom. It overlaps with wife. So it overlaps in a lot of things. But over here as a Ghetto Country Brandmother, there are other boundaries that go with being Ghetto Country. Like me sitting here drinking my bourbon, my Evan Williams.
Yeah.
That's part of my personal brand. If I had a cigar, my husband doesn't let me light up in the house except on special occasion.
Yeah.
But that's part of my personal brand. But Phyllis also smokes cigars. She goes to when I go to the cigar lounge, that's Phyllis. Y'all can't come. That's a thing. So it's understanding, it's like when you give people an opening, when you open up everything, they can come at you every which way. And that's what I learned about being Mrs. Mister back in the day. People were constantly, people still call me Mrs. Mister. My husband put a thing on Facebook about happy anniversary. Happy anniversary to Big Mister and Mrs. Mister. I'm not her anymore. But some people will not let it go. But you have to be willing to let it go because you cannot call me that and expect me to respond. So my biggest thing, separate your who from your do. Who you are is not what you do. If you're a designer, if you're an artist, if you're a writer, that's what you do. Who you are, you're brilliant, you're magnificent, you're loving, you're kind, you're aggressive, you're assertive, you're all these things. That's who you are. But what you do to go make that money, oh, baby, come on, come get this work.
Man, that is such a powerful statement. I would love to have you back to explore just setting those boundaries and embracing those different types of personalities. You were the second person over the span of a few days that has talked about that. I listened to a podcast with Chris Stowe on it not too long ago where he talked about his audience recognizing that there are three different versions of him, and that while they do overlap, you know, and there are similarities, there are very different presences. As long as that is something that we have under control and are aware of, or as you oftentimes say, understanding our why and what we want to deliver, as long as those things are clear to us, then it becomes easier to, you know, create those different personas while maintaining control of our personal lives. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. We do have a few questions that are coming in from our
Okay.
audience. If you all have any more, please feel free to drop them in. One of the questions that we have from Heather is, what is the difference between confidence and courage?
Um, Confidence is reactive and courage is proactive, because we can be brave in a moment, or we've already made the decision that when we walk in, it's like, my confidence is so high, can nobody tell me shit.
Mhm.
And it's owning the fact that that's how I show up wherever I am, wherever I go, and all that stuff, because somebody's going to ask you something and you're going to react with confidence. But when you don't have that confidence, you have to be courageous enough to go anyway. Because if you don't have the courage, most people won't even show up. They don't show up for themselves. They don't show up for their business. They don't even have that much courage to say, you know what, I'm going to walk into the room. At least let me get that far. But a confident person is going to react with confidence in everything that you approach them with. And it could be a big fat lie. It's like, oh, do you know how to design this? And they will say, you know what, I sure do. And in their minds, like, oh shit, how am I gonna figure out how to do this thing? Because they're walking in with confidence that I'm gonna go make this money. Not that I can do that job. But when you walk in with courage, it's like, someone is going to ask me something about this. I have to be courageous enough to say, you know what, I do not know how to do that, but I will figure it out for you. And because I got to figure it out, I'm not even going to charge you my normal rates. That takes courage. That's not offering them a discount. That's somebody paying you to learn some shit you don't already know. So it's understanding, like I said, courage is proactive. It's making a decision to do the things that you want to do. Confidence is like, I don't give a fuck if I can't do it. I'm going to say I can, even when it's bullshit. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's not all the way bullshit if you're confident in your capabilities and know you can figure it out. There are some things where it's courage is, you know, understanding yourself enough to take the leap of faith. But yeah, no, those are very clearly defined examples. So we always like to provide a little bit of time to go through and allow you to express your gratitude or just let us in on the individual's experiences, things that have really shaped your journey. So right now, do you have, you know, some influences in the form of people, experiences, literature, podcasts, things that are just really supporting you right now or have had an impact on your journey?
I think I was a part of Future Pro for 3 years.
Okay.
And one of the things I tell Chris, and I've told him more than once, I'm like, he's my hero and my nemesis. And watching him do what he does, and even with the plethora of people who speak on personal branding, I respect your game, but I do not agree. And so it does fuel me to do what I do. When I talk about personal branding, I'm talking about from a scaling and growth point, from you not forever being a business of one. Where when people get on LinkedIn and talk about your personal brand on LinkedIn, it's like, okay, when you leave LinkedIn, where's your personal brand? And so there's a lot of influence out there, but it's not necessarily good influence. I tell people my example, the go-to prime example for personal branding for me, Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg is a
Everywhere.
personal brand all up and through.
Yes.
You don't see shit out there with Calvin Broadus on it except maybe his check. Snoop is the man. Snoop is carrying the torch in Paris and going to be a commentator. His brand is strong. He is the only dude I know, and maybe because I haven't looked for any, he's the only dude on LinkedIn that says Snoop Dogg. Everybody else got to prove who they are. I got to prove that I'm Phyllis Williams-Strawder. Snoop shows up and it's like, oh, give him a platform.
Yeah.
And so it's if anybody is my inspiration, and like with writing the book that I'm writing right now, he is the inspiration that, or not the inspiration, but he is the example all through that book. Watching his past interviews and watching him go from Snoop Dogg to Snoop Lion to now being Uncle Snoop. It's like the evolutions of him is so amazing. I'm like, I want to be the Snoop Dogg of personal branding, because he has done things that people don't even give him credit for. I was just watching something earlier about his Skechers deal. When Skechers came after him, it's like the way he played it out is like Skechers for everybody. It's like Nike got Jordan and that's all they got. But over here with Skechers, get Skechers for mom, dad, grandma, the kids, everything. And to walk around with, I promise you, I'm getting me some Skechers from Snoop, just because I really respect his personal brand and how dude ain't never put down his blunt to do nothing. Even the interview that I was watching when he was talking about Skechers, dude's an interview with a fat blunt in his fingers. Yep. Y'all don't know blunts. It's a big ass joint wrapped with cigar paper. And I only know that. I don't smoke weed. I just know that because of my upbringing. But he has never wavered from being Snoop. He repositioned himself out of the rap game into having all of these various business and being besties with Martha Stewart and having deals with big lighters and coming up with the Bud bag, that little purse they made. And he's just this phenomenal, everything that has Snoop or Dog or some version on it. He has turned that brand, that personal brand name, into something other than Calvis Brodus Jr. So I have mad respect for him for that. So he is and I got to go read I think he wrote a book that didn't do so well, but I'm going to get that book.
Amazing. Do you have any others? Do you have any podcasts or books or anything like that?
Believe it or not, I love podcasting because I love running my freaking mouth, but I don't listen to a lot of podcasts because I think I just found one. It's like, I've had it. It's two women and they talk about the things that I've had it with. And I get tired of hearing the same fluff of the same shit about branding and marketing, and everybody referencing the same people, Seth Godin and what's dude begins with Y and whoever he is, and Marty Newmeyer and filling gaps and zig and zag, and really, this is a new day and a new era. And even though influencers are out there, the personal branding is, and y'all even quoting who is it, Jeff Bezos. I promise you, anytime somebody says your brand is what they say when you're not in the room, I walk away. I just trust and believe. If you ever say that to me, I have just lost a little bit of respect for you, because I don't give a fuck what you say when I'm not in the room. I really don't, because you cannot control that narrative. And the thing about it's their gut feeling about you. I don't give a fuck. If I cannot control the narrative of the brand I'm building, then I'm not in control. I have given control to everyone else. And that's what they're telling you to do, and I refuse. Period.
I love that.
So, yeah.
And to support that, you have a few projects that are coming up. So why don't you keep us in the loop on that? Heather told me to specifically bring up staying married because she is super excited about it. I am as well. So yeah, upcoming just projects. How can we stay connected with you, support you? What are we looking forward to for the rest of the year from you?
To stay personal, like I say, I keep my personal and my professional separate. I do a podcast with my husband saying, just trying to stay married today. We've been married 20 years yesterday, but we do a podcast together, and the way he puts it is we take a short-term look at a long-term relationship. And so just trying to stay married is TRY apostrophe N, because I made him spell trying wrong. But doing that with him every other week and developing that to help actually do his brand, because I also do something called behind the scene, the BTS Brand Baby Hookup, and it's where people get to sit in on our sessions as we build out his personal brand and eventually scale that into something that's going to be his business, because he doesn't have a business right now. And that's why I was talking to True earlier. He's gone from voiceover, which he did for a couple of years. It's like, let's throw that shit in the trash can or make it a side dish for the thing that we're doing. And creating that openness is like, it's $50 a month. You come in here, you get to ask questions, you get to watch his brand be built, you get to see his analytics be changed, you get to see him morph into going from, hey y'all, to, you know what, my kitchen can folks. And there's this whole experience of being able to actually being on the ground floor of a brand as it's being built. So that's there. I recently did something with my pricing in that I made it, you know what, pay what you can. It's not saying you can come in and pay me $20 to become a bold brand baby, but these are the 3 different price levels for this. Instead of paying the $17.81 a month, this is what it is. Because I know people want to work with me. Y'all, I don't do a whole lot of millennials, so you better be special if you step to me. But it's making, I wanted to make this second half, I wanted to make myself more available. So having this $50 a month and then doing the pay what you can and bringing back the podcast in August.
Okay.
That's coming back in August and it's going to be named after the book, Branding, Boundaries, and Bullshit. Because I want people to recognize that yes, branding and marketing is still a thing, but with AI being so dominant, where's all the bullshit and the boundaries? Let's call a thing. So the podcast will be back in August. And that's mine. That's not the one with my husband. But like I said, I want to be more accessible because I do make a decent amount of money. So in my perspective, I can afford to do this. And the disparity in the price points, you don't like it, don't talk about it, don't touch it. It ain't for you. I don't care. Oh, you should be charging for get on out the way. So yeah. It's that's the nurturing side of me. That's the mothering side of me. Let me make sure my babies can get in here and get some work done.
Even that, I love just the balance between the bold, powerful side and the nurturing, empathetic, just wants to help as many people as possible side. That is so beautiful to put out there. So, well, I think that at this point, we will thank you for your time. It has been such a pleasure to dive deep into a few of these topics with you. I could go on for hours with you and just listen to your talk. Your perspective is so unique, and I do appreciate so much you challenging the narrative that is out there, because I feel like it gets just repeated mindlessly. So it has kind of become the standard, and there's so many different ways to achieve success. So thank you for making us aware of some of the tools and techniques and
Yeah,
guidance.
Deborah, can I say one other thing?
Of course, yeah.
He made this so, and I love you guys' podcast because you do give the audience an opportunity to ask questions. And for some reason, most people will not ask a question. And you think that it's embarrassing. You think that people should already know this or it should be basic. Sweetie, whenever, I don't care if I got to make up a question, ask a question to get to the question that you want to ask, because you seldom have opportunities to get to people who are at a certain level. And I'm not even saying I'm at that level. I'm accessible. I ain't that accessible, but I'm accessible. But whenever you're given the opportunity to ask a question, ask the fucking question. Don't sit there on it because you don't want anybody else to hear, or you think your business, you don't want to be embarrassed by where your status is in your business. Ask the question.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't ever miss an opportunity to ask a question. So,
or ask us, just for our audience here with us right now and listeners, as you hear this, during our live conversations, always feel free to private message myself, Heather, or True. If you feel embarrassed or reserved in asking a question, we'll weave it in there or send it in anonymously. But yes, we would love to take advantage of the guests that we have on here, because yes, in our opinion, you have made it, and we are extremely grateful for your time and your wisdom and just being here with us today. So thank you so much.
well, I appreciate you guys as well, because like I said, a lot of people, there's so much niching to talk bullshit, and the fact that you guys are bringing back the humanity, which is so important. Yes, AI is a wonderful tool, but do not lose sight of humanity and think that is going to save your ass, because it's not.
No, it's all about connection is the future. AI makes everything easier, so it is up to us to make everything else more meaningful.
Yes, I saw you said
That is
that.
our mission. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Phyllis, for being with us. We look forward to having you back for another episode. And until then, we look forward to supporting your podcast that will be launching again in August, as well as
Mhm.
following you on your social media platforms and coming to you for branding, strategy, and marketing knowledge. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sweetie.
Of course.